Let's take a look at the AS Micro for OCR 2017. Going to look at the 15 multiple choice questions. Now, money is something that you often do at the start of the course, and it's often forgotten about because it's just a very small section. So you've got functions of money and you've got characteristics of money. So you've got to make sure you don't get them mixed up. So the function of money is what does money do? And what money does is it's a standard of deferred payment. So you can use it to pay for something in the future. Acceptable, generally acceptable, that's a characteristic, and it's recognisable, that's a characteristic. So don't get mixed up between functions and characteristics. What is it assumed that firms aim to maximise? Well, firms just about always aim to maximise profit. If they're a charity, then they're not necessarily going to aim to maximise profit, and sometimes revenue might be an objective, but usually profit is the objective, certainly. About an extension in demand. So an extension in demand is a movement along the demand curve, down the demand curve, but showing an increase in the quantity. So a fall in the price of X if the price and quantity of X are inversely related. So this is an inverse relationship where one thing goes up, the other goes down. Question 4, this is asking you about consumer surplus. So this is where it's useful to have colours. So in the diagram below, price rises from P1 to P2. What effect does this price movement have on consumer surplus? When price is P1, your consumer surplus is the triangle above the price line. When price is P2, then the consumer surplus is going to be the smaller triangle. So consumer surplus has fallen. So that means it's going to be one of these. It's going to be C or D. And it's fallen by the trapezium. So I'm just going to shade that in green. It's fallen by the trapezium, which is P1, P2, Y, Z. So the correct answer is D. Right, so this is to do with your circular flow of income and your payments to the factor of production. So profit is a payment to enterprise. Capital gets dividends and interest, labour gets wages, and land gets rent. Price elasticity of demand for a good will be determined by, so this is the factors determining the elasticity of demand. So when we talk about elasticity, we're thinking about the gradient. So inelastic or elastic. So don't get mixed up with things that cause the demand curve to shift. So your elasticity of demand, a level of consumers' income, that's going to shift the curve. Age distribution of the population, well, if you've got an ageing population, you'll have greater demand for sheltered accommodation. So again, that's going to shift your curve. The availability of alternative products. So if you've got more substitutes, then that's going to make the demand for the product more elastic. The final one says the time it takes to produce the product. Well, that's to do with your supply, not to do with demand. Right, number 7, which of the following is an external economy of scale? So economies of scale are the benefits in terms of lower average costs when the firm expands its output. Now, external is the lower average costs when the firm is part of a growing industry. So employing specialist managers, that's not external, that's internal because that's within the firm. Falling average costs as a firm increases its output, again that's internal because it's part of the growing firm. Improve rail connections to distant parts of the country. So that is your external, because improved rail connections happen because the firm is part of a growing industry. So it's external economy of scale because it's part of, it's not part of the firm, it's part of outside. Right, marginal social cost. So this is your market failure work. So your marginal social cost is the curve that you often draw. So here's your marginal private cost, and here is your marginal social cost. And this bit here is your negative externality. So with that information, it should make it easier to answer the question. So your marginal social cost is your marginal private cost plus your external cost or your externality. Right, so we've got a calculation question now. So this is saying the income elasticity demand for good X was 2.5. So we'll write the formula down. Percentage change in quantity demanded over percentage change in income. And then we'll have a look at what we've been given, what information we know, and put that into the formula. And then we can find out what we don't know. So we've been told the YED is 2.5. And income increased from 180, which caused the demand to increase from 7,800 to 9,750. So what we need to do is we need to work out what this percentage change is. And that percentage change is going to go on the top, and then we can rearrange to get the percentage change in income. So percentage change is 9,750 minus 7,800. So change over the original. The original is 7,800 times by 100. So that is going to give us, let's pop that into the calculator, make sure you remember to divide it by the original. That's going to give us 25%. So we get 25% on the top, and then we've got our percentage change in income on the bottom. So what we need to do now is we need to cross multiply. So these two effectively can swap places. So we're left with percentage change in income is going to be 25% divided by 2.5, which means our percentage change in income is 10%. So our income has changed by 10%. We're starting off with an income, it says income increased from 180, which caused the demand to increase. What was the new income? So we need to work out 10% of 180, which is 18, and then we add 18 onto 180, which is going to give us 198. Right, so another calculation question here, this time cross elasticity of demand. So we start off with our formula. So cross elasticity is percentage change in quantity demanded of one good divided by percentage change in price of the other. So we've been given the price of good X and we've been given the demand for good Y. So we're going to have percentage change in quantity demanded of Y on the top and percentage change in price of X on the bottom. So if we do this one first, from £10 to £12.50, that's a £2.50 increase. £2.50 increase from £10 is 25%. So we're going to get 25% on the bottom. Because the price has gone up, that's going to be positive on the bottom. When we go from 1200 to 1080, we've got 120 is our change. Our original is 1200 times by 100, and that's going to give us 10%. Now, because the quantity demanded has fallen, that's minus 10. So minus 10 divided by plus 2.5 is going to give us minus 0.4. So that's two of our options. Now we have to establish whether they're complements or substitutes. So if the price of one good goes up, leads to a fall in demand for the other. So that would be a bit like strawberries go up in price. And then what happens is fewer people buy strawberries, and therefore there's going to be less demand for cream. Strawberries and cream are complements, so therefore our answer will be A. Next one, merit goods. So merit goods are goods such as education and healthcare. So we've got two statements. We have to establish which two are true for merit goods. Well, before you even start, we know merit goods are good things, positive externalities. So here we've got positive. We know that this one's not right because that's got a negative. Again, we've got a positive, so we can cross out our negative ones and we can tick our positives, but now we've got other options. We need to consider whether they're correct or not. So there is information failure in the market. Right, so we've got information failure in the market for a couple of them. There is information failure because consumers don't fully understand the benefits of consuming them. For question 8, it says consumers do not understand the benefit of consuming them. They do understand that there's benefits, but they don't fully understand the benefits. They don't have, so that one is nearly right, but it's not totally right. And that's why your correct answer is B, because it's about consumers not having all the information. So they half understand, but not fully. So that means it's information failure. So B is your correct answer. Number 12 is about your costs, fixed costs and variable costs. So total cost is going to be your fixed cost plus your variable cost. Fixed costs are costs that do not change when output changes. So if we just add 2 columns on here, fixed costs don't change when output changes. So whether you open and sell loads of customers or whether you're closed and serve nobody, you've still got your fixed cost to pay. That would be something like your rent. So we can write in our fixed cost for all of these levels of output. We know that total cost is your fixed cost plus your variable cost. So we can now work out our variable cost. So we've got our total cost, we've got our fixed cost. So our variable cost, we need to take away our fixed cost from our total cost to get our variable cost. So 338. And that might be enough to get us to the answer. Let's have a look when we get down there. So it says average cost is £16 when output is 32,000. So output 32,000, average cost £16. Well, our average cost is our total cost divided by quantity. So if we did total cost 612,000 divided by 100,000, well, that's not going to be 16. Next one, average variable cost is £17.57 when output is 28,000. So if you take 28,000 and then you take your variable cost, this one, divide it by 100,000, and it's not going to give you £17.57. Marginal cost is the additional cost of producing one more unit of output. So it says marginal cost is 40,000 when output is 26. So we don't even know what the additional is for one, but we could work out the additional for an extra 2,000, and that's not going to be 40,000. And then total variable cost is 450,000 when output is 30,000. Output is 30,000. Variable cost, or we could call that total variable cost, is 450,000. So D is the correct answer. Price elasticity of supply is most likely to be greater than 1. Greater than 1 is elastic. Elastic supply means it's easy to increase supply. Usually that's for something that doesn't take long to grow. So an agricultural product is not the correct answer because that takes time to grow. The product is a necessity. Well, that's inelastic demand. There are a large number of firms in the market. Well, it's easy to increase supply if you've got a large number of firms in the market. Number 14, on 2 countries producing 2 goods. So this is a bit like your absolute and comparative advantage. So the opportunity cost of producing an additional unit of X in country A is, so country A. So for country A, they can produce 300 of X or 600 of Y. So we need to work out what 1 of X is in terms of Y. So 300X is 600Y. That means 1X is going to be, so we divided 300 by 300 to get to 1. So it's going to be 600 divided by 300. So we can see 1X is equal to 2 units of Y. And finally, the purpose of a national minimum wage is to ensure that Well, the national minimum wage is to help people have a decent standard of living. So the correct answer is ensure employees receive a wage above the market equilibrium. Now, if the minimum wage was below market equilibrium, there'd be no point in it. The whole point is that it's pushing the wages up. So B is the correct answer.